cards, so stick around. This full moon is in Cancer. Generally what I do, but I'm not using that account right now. Typically for lunations, I will do emoji tarot card readings. And it's really fun. I'll get back to it eventually, but I'm giving that account a little break to reset the algorithm. As recommended by ChatGPT. I'm not really fond of the television screen being on. Let me go fix that. It will get down. My bad. I feel bad for having to get up. It's really ugly behind my head. It's just like I was looking up codecs. I have my computer attached to my TV. So anyway, so this is about the home. Spiritually, how we rest in our bodies, what feels safe, shelter. But we also have Mars in Cancer here, retrograde. So we're experiencing a shadow for this moon where we might be feeling emotionally connected to late September, early October. Did something change for you back then? You know, was there a swift, sudden change of emotional energy, a cutoff? There's like cat hair all over my face, or my own hair. I guess that was attached. So through these times where we feel ghosts from lessons we thought we learned, and we're finding ourselves going over the same ground that we could have sworn we covered already. What else do we have to learn from this? We might be thinking, I don't really know how I'm going to get through this. Our inner child might be kicking and screaming, because when we're dealing with the fourth house, it's the position of our mother or our home, right? The fourth house is things that are related to family, safety, parents. 10th house, it's like the 10th and the 4th, just like the moon and Saturn, are tied to our parents. So we have the moon representing the mother and Saturn representing the father in this case, and Saturn representing the 10th house as well. It is Capricorn season. This drink is sticky. It's got a lot of gelatin in it. So when it cools down, it gets kind of sticky. I gotta drink it fast. So always on the axis of Cancer Capricorn and of the 10th and 4th house, everybody has this. Whether or not you have planets in the 4th house, we still have chart points that represent this area of life. We all have a 4th house, whether or not there's a planet in it. We all have a 10th house, whether or not there's a planet in it. More often than not, our IC/MC falls in the 10th and the 4th as well. This is where you came from, your roots, and things that you know to be true about yourself in private versus how the public perceives you to be. Am I okay? Thank you for asking. I'm good. I'm a little bit like I have cramps, but I'm good. Hocus pocus. I don't know if that's a direct reference to the movie or saying I look like Bette Midler, but either way, I'm not taking it anything about that as an insult. I am a tarot reader. We are talking about astrology to begin with, getting into the emotions of this full moon. And as I was just rounding the topic for the ICMC, these are important angles. We have 4 points in the chart that are called the angles, which is the ascendant and descendant. That's your rising sign and your descendant. And we have the ICMC, like I was just explaining. The ICMC represents your roots and where you're going, from where you bloomed from. So no mud, no lotus, right? So if you found the place of origin that you came from to be quite muddy, not so loving and nurturing, you might manifest this in your current reality, and people might know you in public to be someone who does not either provide a sense of safety or actually that's really more often than not what happens. If you don't know sense of safety from your childhood, you're probably not going to be a safe place out there in the big world. There are an exception to people who've learned how to self-parent and guide themselves through the emotional process of being safe, being a safe person to be around. So I don't want to knock it. Those people have done a lot of work. But the general public will wound people because they're originally have been wounded. Hurt people hurt people. And I think people are, I've been scrolling the internet a little bit this morning. Mostly I read books. But what I have seen on Facebook a lot today, and it's so apropos, people are talking about their mother wounds today. And I commend them for that. But this is exactly the kind of thing that we need to be purging right now. What else comes from your roots other than your experience with your family? So how are we going to put context into this great big world without it? So our IC really does inform our public perception, how we're perceived. So if you still resonate with being hurt, having upset feelings, being angry, really anger is a distillation of confusion or isolation or pain or being misunderstood. Or hell, maybe you were received well as a kid, as a child, and you were celebrated. And maybe now you are perceived as an entitled adult. This can play out any kind of way. We have Mars retrograde in Cancer right now. Like I was talking about, we're reviewing things that we experienced in the early fall, early fall. I want you to think about the shell of a crab. Imagine this crab going on the bottom of the ocean looking for a new home, a new dwelling place, a new shell. And it's been trying on hats, new hats, maybe a tin can it found, or a larger shell, or, you know, anything falls down to the bottom of the ocean. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be anything. But with a retrograde there, it's kind of like a Goldilocks situation. We made it all the way into Leo. We thought we were charging through and being authentic and shining our light. We thought we were headed the right direction. But this retrograde really has us going inward and examining, like, does this really suit and fit every one of my needs? Is this really something that feeds me at my IC, or is this something that feeds me at my MC? Is this something that is familiar and safe because of the momentum that I've had and created? Is this in my life because it's familiar? Or is this in my life because it feeds and leads me to where I want to be, not where my ground is already covered, but where I might be uncomfortable and face the unknown. We have this dichotomy right now with the sun representing Saturn in the 10th, and the moon representing fourth house. Then Mars is there. He's the one going back and forth to all these other domiciles, trying them on and making the assessments of if maybe that shell over there wouldn't be better, but there's somebody living in it, so maybe it's time. No, I'm good, thank you. I'm sitting here speaking of a spiritual purpose. I'm comfortable, thank you. So we might come in contact with obsessions because we still have a conjunction, not a conjunction, an opposition with Pluto. So this complicates the action of Mars going from place to place to place, being obsessed with finding something that feels safe and comfortable. The things that you might have to do to feel safe and comfortable include perceiving new definitions of what safe and comfortable really truly means. Is this safe and comfortable in a familiar way, or is this safe and comfortable in a growth-oriented way? Is this what worked for me before, or is this what's better for me in the future? I'm obsessed with this jacket too. I love this jacket. It's actually a bathrobe. So we're going to have feelings of anger, frustration. I call, you know, imagine like a very unevolved sense of just crying out. This is not an intellectual sense of emotion. This is that feeling that we used to get when we were children, just crying out for our mother. Our souls might be doing this right now during this full moon. But nobody will be coming to save us but our own selves. So, how do we do this when we're both witnessing, moving from house to house, self parenting? How do we do it all? And how do we do it all without hurting somebody else in the process? Because Mars is pretty angry and petulant, right? Taking swings. Mm. Not only that, we have North Node moving into Pisces. I don't think I'm here for what you think I'm here for. So I'm going to be ignoring the chat and just sticking to my message. I will be sitting here doing tarot cards and doing a general reading, but if anybody decides that they would like a private reading or personal, it's not so private if I'm reading your cards right here, right now, live, but you're more than welcome to send your donation and I can handle your cards and bring that up right after this general reading. So we have covered a lot of ground. We have chosen new homes, as it were, new vehicles for safety. But because of Mars retrograde also being here with the moon, we're going to experience, like I said, Goldilocks syndrome. And we might even be covering old ground, reviewing the decisions we've made already, assessing if we're even happy in this new decision before we move forward. This North Node is creating a sense of relaxation in a weird way. This is like Piscean energy. It's undefinable. It has a little bit of everything in it. It could be overwhelming and yet nothing at the same time. It's that sense of swimming in the ocean. I've had this happen before, and this is a good story to describe Pisces energy. I was in the Gulf of Mexico at the time, and I swam on to the end of the sea bank inside of this like little resort that I was at. Right as where the water was breaking, where the tides were making waves, and I get to the edge and there's a cliff. It's not like the beaches in California where it just gets deeper and there's a gradual sense of getting into the ocean. This was a deep, you couldn't see the bottom, shelf, cliff, right near the beach. And right as I got to the edge of that cliff and I was looking at it and how terrifying it was because it just dropped off in to nothing. It was blackness and it gave me the most crazy sense of foreboding that I ever felt in the ocean before. And right as I was looking around, like anything could come out of this hole, I was feet away all of a sudden from a barracuda. Barracuda are terrifying. This was a long, skinny barracuda. I've seen them all sizes, but this one was looking at me and I was looking at it. And there was a giant shelf of nothing. And I just started to swim backwards towards the shore, never taking my eyes off of this barracuda. Backed up all the way safely into the shore. And that was my first time I was truly afraid of the ocean. I had been swimming and snorkeling before, but this was a whole new experience for me. This was terrifying. Pisces energy is very much like that. You think you have a concept of the ocean or the sea where you're at, but that's just an idea. It's an illusion. It's a definition that you have. Maybe it's true in this one area, but it's not true in all areas of the sea. And just when you think you're familiar with the bottom of the sea, you not only have more to discover, but you also have dangerous fish swimming in there with you. Dangerous predatorial creatures that look very alien in some cases. Maybe it's not just barracuda, you know what I'm saying? Like anything's in the ocean. And our visibility is really low, even when the water's clear. You only get so far. You can't really know that much about the ocean. That's what makes it terrifying. And in some cases, Pisces energy is very much the same. It's like you have a sense of connection in the sense that we're all united spiritually. We all come from the same source. Energetically, we have similar vibrations. But the individual has a choice to separate consciously from the group. The disconnection is also very Piscean. The disillusion, the erosion is very Piscean. So on one hand, you have this thing, but the more you try to hold on to it, the more it slips away. It's like holding on to sand in your fist under the water. Again, more water metaphors. The tighter you hold on to that sand, the less of that sand you have. It's ineffable. And this is the direction we're being asked to go towards, is this unknown. What we're being asked with the South Node being in Virgo is to put aside our definitions, put aside our categorizations, put aside our knowns, our data, our organized view of the world for a time. This will probably be around for the next 18 months or so. So our trust factor is going to have to increase. Our faith is going to have to increase. And I'm not talking any particular religion, but our faith in the gods or God or the universe, source, angels, is going to have to be paramount in order to figure out what to do next, because that is the only type of guide we're going to be able to have. I would say if you're going to do magic during this full moon, it's a good time to make moon water. I would say intuitively that this would be a good moon water to use if you are wanting a type of water that will help you find a house in the future. This is a really weird download. This water is something that some of you would want to help you with discernment, finding a new home. Because of that retrograde energy, it would be a good thing to spray on you if you're house shopping from place to place. It would give you a very careful fine-tooth comb for your home environment in the future. Very interesting download. I don't hardly ever talk about magic. So our parenting, our self-parenting, will it have to include becoming comfortable with the unknown, becoming comfortable with trusting something you can't see. And Saturn and Neptune are going to be moving into Aries, which gives us more of a sense that our choices have weight. So we have to really check in willingly with spirit. Otherwise, we can't get the help we need to be receiving. We're going to be quick with creating things of substance in random ways. Manifestation is going to be super easy if we can get our vibration in the right place, both positive and negative. So I'm going to say my card prayer and get into some general cards for the full moon now that I've done my little channeled message. Spirit of angels, truth, love, light, and benevolent darkness. I say benevolent darkness because how else are we going to learn from our shadows other than truly diving in to them and learning what they have to teach us? Bring us wisdom from the shadows, benevolent wisdom for the shadows. And any entities that want to come in, you're welcome as long as you have our highest good in mind. People who are watching, go ahead and invite your deities of choice, your ancestors from the other side, anybody that you might work with spiritually. Everybody's welcome as long as they have our highest good in mind and want to give us good data and not so confusion. I ask that my ego to be set aside for the moment so that I can flow with the messages that need to be brought out. Thank you. Like cat hairs all over my face. My roommate and her cats just moved back in, so there's cat hair everywhere. Thank you for removing my ego. I ask that every word that I continue to say in service in this next reading and any personal readings that do come through, that all the words that I say are purely channeled and do not come from me. So go ahead and please use whatever vocabulary that you need to use through me. Thank you for this opportunity to work in this light. It's a blessing. Thank you. Okay, so full moon, Cancer, general reading. Like, what do we need to know? I'm going to do advice, do, don't. 3 cards. Oh, I see I have 5 people now. Just now getting into the cards. I just did a channeled message previously for this full moon. And if you want a personal reading, I put all of my data into the description box. So if you desire a personal reading, just go ahead and send me your donation and we'll get to you after this general reading. My free service is doing the general reading. If you want something one-on-one, if you want something in this live right now, if you want a personal word for this full moon, go ahead and send me a donation and I got you. Now, an advice do, don't, please, for the full moon in Cancer. I'm using the Pulp Tarot deck. Very deep, intuitive message here. So we have, to begin, the High Priestess. A very cool deck. It's like Pulp Fiction images. The second card in the Major Arcana. So she's coming in strong. She is the one who, she's like the channel of Shekinah energy. She's the epitome of the divine feminine, the spirituality of a woman, the sense of intuition that we all have, not just women, your instincts, your link to source, your ability to comprehend and assimilate spiritual information when you read it. She is your sense of peace that doesn't have understanding with it. It doesn't make sense, but you feel peace and love and contentment through channels that are mysterious. This is an extremely intuitive card for this full moon. This is the advice. Disconnect from anything that gets in the way of your connection with spirit. If you get downloads, write them down. Do not speak them to people. If you get hits, like spiritual hits about people around you, don't start talking about them right now. Give it time. Let them ask about what you know instead of just blurting it out. Because the high priestess does not necessarily speak. She just sits there in knowing. She's ready to provide knowledge at the drop of the hat. But she's not going to volunteer that information because it's like the primary directive in Star Trek, right? Where you are there to help, but not to, like, what's the word? Prime directive. Not change the technology, not change people's trajectory, not to influence the future, not to change anything about this, whoever it is you're trying to help. What you are there for is to be energetically supportive. So no matter what you get told about people, whatever secrets spirit has for you, whatever knowings you have, especially if it's for you about your future, do not speak it to anybody. This is the advice, is use discretion, use your intuition. Have you ever pretended like you couldn't see? I'm assuming that you have sight. It might be somebody that's watching that has no ability to see. Shout out. You probably already know what I'm about to say. You get a sense of your room around you. You memorize things with your eyes closed. You know the layout, generally speaking, of where you are. This is the essence of the high priestess. She has a sense spiritually of the layout of wherever she is and whatever she's doing. There's this silent knowledge that she has. She's not going to be sitting there telling everybody what she thinks she knows. So that's the advice. The do card. Act upon what you know. Don't be talking about it. Be the example. Be the driving force. Be the catalyst. Be playful. But don't be warning people. Don't let other people's energy into your creating this momentum. This is just for you. You and your spirit. The don't card. Don't avoid change. Don't avoid the negatives in life. Don't avoid the high highs, the low lows. Sit there and watch them all happen. Don't avoid transformation. You can't control it anyway. Let it be personal. Don't try to cause somebody else's transformation. This is private. You can't drag anybody else with you through these types of spiritual deaths. This is very isolating work, but it won't last. Don't try to avoid hitting bottom. Don't try to avoid having an experience. We're all here. But what you can't do is sit here and talk about it. You have to be about it. You have to be the one to be the pioneer. You have to show people that it can be done. Death gets everybody in the end. Don't think you're the exception, regardless. Don't be so brittle that you can't start over from the bottom. Let yourself be consumed in these flames. Let what you think you know be changed and altered through spirit. Stay connected through the divine feminine energy. Don't think that this won't come for you. Death is coming for us all. So remember to use this as an excuse to also live thoroughly, live bravely, live with all of your fiber of your being. In terms of self-parenting, or in terms of looking through this retrograde period, you might not have your regular outside landmarks that you usually have for telling you you're okay. You might not have your regular coping mechanisms that help you feel okay. You have to find this from within. You can't find your okayness from outside in. It comes from the inside out. This is why we're in retrograde right now. Still. Our roots, some of our roots have to die in order to be regrown and reborn publicly. So I would say don't, since this is the don't card, don't think you're the exception to death, but also don't think that death is permanent. It's all a phase. So some of us are experiencing a type of death, and we're being rebirthed into a new type of knowing, a new process of spiritual gains, but we have to have some losses. And some of that might be losing the joy of being able to talk about your process for a time. Go into isolation. That's my advice. Don't for the full moon in Cancer. We have some pretty interesting major arcana cards. Spiritually, we're good, but there's a lot of things around us that might make us feel uncertain and insecure. We can't avoid that. We have to allow this course correction. Sometimes it is about two ways at once. Okay. That's it for that general reading. I'm not getting any more messages out of that. If anybody wants a private reading, I have not received any donations for any private readings. If anybody wants any private readings, this is your last call. I don't know if I even have anybody in chat right now. But if you do, that's your chance. I'm reshuffling. I see nobody in chat with me. So in that case, I'll start the process of closing my reading. If you want a private, personal reading that's not live like this, I have a menu. I also have a website, suigenerousregenerate.com. You can contact me to book through that website. You can also catch me on social media. All the social medias under Sui Generous Regenerate. You can schedule a private reading for you. I have, like I said, again, a menu for time slots. And you're more than welcome to schedule an actual reading. I see one person in chat. If there's one person that wants me to do a private reading for them, you're more than welcome to send me a donation. And then we will get to that right now. But other than that, you can schedule outside of this and we'll get you on the books. All right, doesn't look like anybody wants a private reading. So in that case, I'm going to send you off with some blessings for this full moon in Cancer. Stop affirming your worth with your mouth. This is a knowing, a feeling, a sense of knowing, a sense of security that comes from God, spirit, angels. This is beyond our control. Don't even think you can, but just remember it's private, it's personal, and it's temporary. Don't try to think you can avoid the death cycle. Run right into it. Be excited because it's going to lead you to something else. Use all your cleverness. This is a very, very solitary full moon. Like I said at the beginning, if you want to do any magic, it's a good time for cleansing. It's a good time for anchoring, but it's also, like I said, very weird message I got. But if you want to make moon water, it's probably going to help you find a home. You can wear it like a body spray, and it will give you emphasis on how to find a new place. Are there any other messages that need to come through before I close out? This is what they're repeating. You're in charge of how you feel. You are more than capable of rewriting any sort of stories you have from your childhood. You're not underneath it anymore. You're only underneath it if you want to be. So that's that. All right. All my love, all my blessings. Please take care of yourself.